Hi, in this episode I'll be talking to Dr. Rich Walker from Ghost Fishing UK. Over at BREW, Rich explains how the charity has struggled for funding this year and is launching a scheme to help give them a healthy boost to allow them to continue into 2021 with their valuable work. Can you help? So have you got a brew? What are you on? What are you drinking?
I've got black coffee, yeah.
A nice GUE mug there. I need one of them for my top shelf up here. I'll have to get.
I'll
swap you. You get me one of yours, I'll get you one of mine.
What? No. I'll send you one all of your own.
Gleaming. Cheers. Right, so Dr. Rich Walker, welcome to Fancy a Brew bonus edition podcast. Thanks for coming on. If you want to give us a quick intro to who you are, and then we'll get on to the hot topic of today.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Rich Walker. I'm a lot of things, really, depending on who you talk to. What I'm really here for today is as the chairman of Ghost Fishing UK, a charity that recovers lost fishing nets from the sea, and basically it stops them catching animals, fish, mammals unnecessarily. But by day, I'm a tech diving instructor with GUE, Global Underwater Explorers, but I'm here to talk about ghost fishing today.
Cool. Well, can you elaborate then? What is ghost fishing for those that don't know?
So Ghost Fishing Ghost Fishing UK is a registered UK charity, and it's basically a volunteer organisation drawing from the recreational divers in the UK. And what we do is we find those fishing nets that we've all seen on UK wrecks and reefs, and we bring them back to the surface again. Now, what we're doing really is to stop these fishing nets killing fish, seals, dolphins, whales unnecessarily. We recognize that we need a fishing industry. We're not kind of militant anti-fishing in any sense at all. Yeah. Most of us enjoy, a fish and chip supper. It's a good thing. It's part of our diet and we need it. But what we do recognize is that fishing gear doesn't get lost deliberately either. It's expensive. People need this stuff for their livelihood, but it's an unavoidable consequence of working in an extremely harsh environment. So we're on side with the fishing industry, absolutely. But we do recognize that these things happen. So when we see them, we like to take them back to the surface again. So we have a team of divers up and down the country from Cornwall right through to Scotland. And when we hear about lost nets, if we don't find them ourselves, then we do our best to go out and get them. And we have various ways of finding out about them. One of them is on our own dives. If we see them, we'll put a report in. And secondly, any diver here in the UK can submit a report to our website, which is www.ghostfishing.co.uk. And on there is a simple web form that you can just basically enter what you saw, where you saw it, and when you saw it. And if you want to put pictures in, you want to put more detail in, go ahead. But all we need is what you saw, when and where. And we can then put that into our database and make plans to go and get it.
Awesome. So where did it start, or how did it start?
So it started way back in, I think, 2014. I was out in Croatia where I do a lot of my kind of real work, my kind of employment work. Yeah. And there was a project going on to recover a net from a shipwreck called the Argo, which is a wreck that I've dived many times, use it as part of my training. It's an old minesweeper, ex-HMS Flint, but was retasked and became a freighter and was carrying tomatoes to Rijeka and hit a mine and sank in two pieces. And she was at the time, covered in fishing net. And we basically spent a week chopping up and lifting this net back to the surface again. So I thought, what a brilliant thing to do. So why don't we do this back in the UK? So we set up a project in Scapa Float on Bob Anderson's boat. And we spent a week kind of training people how to recover nets and pots and lost fishing gear basically safely. Yeah. So at the end of that, we had 6 UK divers that were all kind of handpicked by me for their kind of diving skills. I knew them, they were known quantities. And that was the start of the team, really. And every year we went back to Scapa because there was plenty of work to do there. And every year we built the team. Every year we trained people better. Every year we grew the team. And at the end of it, in 2018, we were running 2 liveaboard boats. We had a training boat. We were training divers on one boat and doing live recoveries on the other boat.
Wow.
And basically that's where we finished. We ended up cleaning Scapa flow. There was no more lost fishing gear that was actively catching anymore. So in conservation project terms, that's kind of a really unusual good news story that, actions of people have made a particular environment a cleaner or better place. So that was 2018. And since then, what we've done is to build on that team. We now have, written by Christine, our secretary, a 3-day training course to teach people how to conduct ghost fishing properly, how to remove nets safely in a proper team, using lift bags, knives, all of those things that you can't really learn unless you're involved with the team.
Yeah.
Like I say, we've got teams from Cornwall through to Scotland. We're about 70 or 80 members now, and we have been basically recovering ghost gear up and down the country ever since.
Certainly the name Ghost Fishing UK, people are well aware of your actions and what's going on. And how can people get involved?
So really, this year has been a tricky year for us because obviously with the restrictions, with the various lockdowns, tier systems, restrictions on movements, there's not been a great deal of diving going on. Back when everything opened up again, kind of July time, then we started to get our reports back in, which was great. I think we got 2 or 3 projects out, so that the team managed to mobilize and get a couple of jobs done.
Yeah.
But normally we'd be expecting to do 10 or 15 2-day projects every year, and I think we're down to something like 3 this year. So we've been hugely impacted by our ability to react quickly. So that's down. We're unable to run a week-long project this year. We tried, but it just wasn't going to fly. So we've been really hampered in that aspect. And the other thing that suffers from that as a direct consequence is our funding streams kind of dry up, because every time we do a project, we publicize it, we show everybody what we did underwater, on the surface, we produce great media, video and photography of the work that we do. So normally we'd be running 10 to 15 2-day projects every year, but this year we're down to 2 or 3. And as a direct consequence of that, when we go out on projects, we produce great media. We have great video and underwater photography, and we show people the kind of things that we recover from the sea. And what they do at that point is they donate to us. So our funding streams have been really hammered this year. So we've been willing to do the work, but the lockdowns have stopped us doing a lot of the work.
Yeah.
But then because we're not doing the work, we can't publicize the work that we do. Our funding streams are starting to slow down. So we've been eating into our reserves, which we've done a pretty good job of building up over the last couple of years. But they are getting thin. So we really desperately need some other kind of funding injection, if that's possible.
Well, I wish I could help you. I'm skint as well. What I've always wondered about, because I've tried to do some like rubbish cleans and stuff. I live quite close to the Lake District, and we dived there during the summer, and there was quite a lot of rubbish in like Lake Windermere and a few of the others. But what I seem to find, I come across the wall that I hit is, what do I do with this rubbish when I retrieve it? Now, most of it is just domestic rubbish in that respect. So I think local rubbish bins, or even taking it home, putting it in my own rubbish bin, isn't too much of a drama, because I've probably got a small carrier bag full. But I've seen some of the things that you guys are lifting up, and you perhaps need a tractor, if not a truck. So how do you go about disposing it, or what can you do with it?
This is probably our most difficult problem. On a typical kind of 2-day project, we'd spend the first day surveying. So we count all the critters that are caught alive or dead in the nets. We work out the best way of recovering it. And then the next day we go and lift it. So in that 2-day project, a typical kind of recovery would be something like 2 of those juice and dumpy bag kind of things.
Yeah.
All right. So that's about 1 cubic meter to 2 cubic meters of fishing net, which weighs about, one of those bags is about 100 kilos, just short of 100 kilos on an approximate kind of level. So yeah, you can't really stuff that in a wheelie bin, even if you stop off at every corner on your way home and borrow wheelie bins. It doesn't work. All right. We've always been fascinated in this idea that you can reuse this. There are some avenues for recycling this certain types of nylon that make fishing net. So a certain type of nylon can be turned into something called N.A.R.C. But there's only one very specific type of nylon that can be used for that. And you as the layman can't tell. You can't look at it and distinguish it from anything else.
Right.
And particularly once it's all covered in barnacles and the fruits of the sea, let's say, it becomes much more difficult to manage. And a lot of reprocessing facilities don't like it when it's covered in sealing. So there's that side of it. So we've been looking really hard for different avenues to recycle it. And we've had some success with it. We've spoken to a lot of people. We get some mileage. There's a guy up in Orkney called Mark Cook, and he runs a company called Afraid Not. And he basically takes all the rope.
Yeah.
He's brilliant. And he makes doormats, ornate knotting, really all that stuff you used to see kind of times of old.
I think I've heard of him.
Mats. It's brilliant stuff, but he makes it all out of old polyprop that gets washed up on the sea, on the seashore, or takes it from us. Yeah. So that's one avenue we've used. We do try, if particularly stuff like lobster pots and things like that, if they're in decent condition, we can give them back to the fishermen.
Yeah.
These things are 60, 70 quid a pop, and they don't just put them in ones and twos, they put them in great long strings. And lose a whole string of pots because a boat goes over your buoys, you're looking at quite a hit, really. So if they're in decent nick, then we give them back. So we try and recycle if at all possible. At the moment, what we're doing is we're just kind of marshalling it all up, letting all the organic matter kind of degrade away. And then hopefully it'll be a bit cleaner, a little bit lighter, and a bit easier to manage. But we're looking for a decent kind of recycling pathway at the minute.
I've certainly heard of this Econil before. I don't know if it was a T-shirt I bought from someone like Fourth Element or something. Maybe that's where I've come across it.
Fourth Element do a great job of using a lot of it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, is there any sort of learning or education that those that are using the stuff initially are taking on board? No pun intended there. But as in the nets that they're using, is there any learning from what can be recycled going on to what they can use?
That I'm not anywhere of any kind of decision that they can make to buy a certain type of nylon. There are lots of projects that will, however, collect clean nets or end-of-life nets from the fishing industry. Yeah. And if you go to any kind of harbour, you'll normally find kind of great big kind of industrial wheelie bin things that are just for end-of-life nets.
Right.
But they go a huge volume. But if pretty much anything that's clean can probably be somehow managed.
Yeah.
But as long as it doesn't get dumped in the sea is the important thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there are pathways for clean net. It's the lost stuff that goes on killing that's the difficult one to manage.
One thing you mentioned then about the gear that you do recover, there's clearly going to be marine life living on it and stuff like that. How do you manage what's going on around that?
Right. So, I mean, we've all dived in the UK and we've all seen animals trapped. The most obvious stuff is normally crabs, spider crabs, particularly because they're all spiky. They get tangled up in monofilament really easily. So if we're on our survey dives and we find live animals caught in the nets, we release them. So we cut them all free and release as much as we can. So the small stuff, crabs, fish get caught because they get caught in fishing net. That's what fishing net does. Yeah. But then you get the bigger stuff as well. Because fish and crabs get caught in it, other animals that like to eat fish and crabs will come into that net to try and eat that easy food. So it's not unusual for seals, dolphins, bigger marine animals to get caught in this net, which is tragic when you see it.
Yeah.
So the whole problem of it doesn't just start with the nets catching the animals that they were intended to catch, but then the whole problem just keeps going on, and you get these bigger and bigger animals get caught up in these nets. Seals love to play with balls, that's what they do. They bounce on their nose and kick them around and stuff. But the round floats that are on fishing nets look like balls, and they go and play with them, and then they get tangled up in them.
It must be heartbreaking, that.
Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of knock-on effects that you probably wouldn't think about that these ghost nets cause. And going on from that, because they're made out of these really resilient plastics, they stay in the ocean for hundreds of years, and they'll break down and grind down into these microplastics, which is just another problem altogether.
So what have you got going on now then? What's coming up?
Right. So basically, as of the 1st of December, Tuesday, the 1st of December, we've got a huge effort. It's a week-long campaign to try and generate some funding for us, and we desperately need help so that we can function next year. Now we're doing it outside of our normal kind of PayPal donate or anything like that kind of systems. We're using the Big Give Christmas Challenge as a platform for this. And the reason that this is beneficial to us is because every pound that any member of the public can donate to us gets matched. So what we did a few months back was to go around to a bunch of companies in the diving industry, in the business of using recycled fishing nets, all these kind of people that are kind of stakeholders, to use the fashionable word, in this kind of problem. And they've put up matching funds. Okay, so they're committed to every pound that we raise, they effectively match it. So we've got a huge target next week. We have to secure £5,000 in 1 week. Okay, and if we do that, our funding gets matched. Okay, so that $5,000 turns into $10,000 for us.
Jeez, that's some task, isn't it?
It's a big job, and I'm not going to lie. It's making me kind of nervous because I know how much pressure people are under at the minute financially. I know people don't know when they're going to work, but if you don't ask, you don't get, do you? So anything that anybody can donate to us would be hugely grateful, and every pound that anyone can donate gets doubled.
Right, well, I'll donate straight away as soon as I get off this. How do I go about doing it?
So what you need to do is to go to our website, which is ghostfishing.co.uk, and there's a big button on the top called donate, and that will take you straight to the Big Give donate campaign. It's important, please don't send it, if you've already donated to us through PayPal, don't send it like that. It has to go through the Big Give Christmas Challenge donate page, right, which you can access straight through our website.
Little help always goes a long way, doesn't it? And then obviously the more people that can help, the better. It's a difficult time, isn't it? But we all want to be involved in some way of helping the environment that we use to our heart's content as much as we can. We always want to, as divers, seem to want to get involved. It's just the ability. Not everyone can come and assist you physically, but financially, it's quite an easy help, that.
I think that's it. Yeah. We get so much support from the non-diving kind of members of the public, which to me is like amazing. We managed to reach past the diving community. We thought when we first started this, we'd be fairly limited because there's a particular aspect to this that we as divers we're in a unique position that unless you're a diver, you don't see what's under the water. And it's one of the reasons I'm a diver is because, since I was tiny, just looking at the surface of the water, I was always curious as to what was underneath it. So now I've got that ability to go and enjoy myself and have a great time scuba diving and seeing all the just fascinating environment that's down there. It's almost like I owe it to the people that don't dive to tell them what's there. And then it kind of goes on. The next step of that is that we're custodians of that environment. We owe it to that environment that gives us so much to tell the world what's going on down there. And like I say, this is not deliberate acts as a rule. This is not the fishing industry being negligent. Absolutely not. Nobody's losing nets for fun. So So unless we can educate the general public as to what the problem is, try and find some kind of solution to it, then that's pretty selfish, because it's just our fun that we give nothing back to. So from my perspective as a diver, it's almost like a responsibility that we do something like this.
Yeah, but certainly from my end, I like a purpose for going for a dive. I don't just go diving just to go and hang
Well,
around in the water for an hour and get cold and
well,
and spend a fortune. I want an interest that's going
yeah,
to make me feel positive. I've done and contributed something nice and positive to the world, and something I can really get my teeth stuck into. I can come home and research before I go, and really get stuck into. So these kind of projects that you're talking about actually really interest me.
absolutely, yeah. Well, I think it's kind of funny, really, but maybe this is a talk for another time. Is once you've learned to dive, once you've learned the mechanics of it,
Yeah.
you're probably going to decide, well, what do we do with it now? All right, what do we do with our diving? And to me, the reason I learned to dive wasn't to constantly buy new bits of gear. It was to see what's below the surface of the water,
Yeah.
to go and explore that environment. So to me, there always was a purpose. But that was the whole reason I started to dive.
Yeah.
It wasn't to buy this toy or buy that toy or whatever. It was simply to see what's under the surface.
Yeah.
Learn the skills, learn the equipment to get there, and then we go and do that. And the fact that we can engage in projects like this, I think every diver can kind of relate to that.
Definitely. Ghost Fishing UK, what are you doing to drive this initiative now over the next few weeks?
Right. So what we're going to do is you're going to see our social media streams hopefully start to go crazy. We're going to start spamming everything.
The best way. Seems to work.
So we've got social media streams. You can go and see us on Facebook. Ghost Fishing UK has a page there. We're on Twitter and Instagram, which are mysteries to me. I don't get those. We have a wonderful lady who does all that kind of end of our social media for us. So you'll see us there. Just look for Ghost Fishing UK and you'll find us.
Yeah.
We'll be putting out some of the media, some of the videos, some of the work that we do. So we're going to be showcasing what we've done, and we're just going to be asking people, the kind of way people often do it now is to say, instead of giving me a Christmas present, donate to this charity. That's the way I'm going to pitch it. I know a lot of people around the world, and if they could all give Ghost Fishing 5-10 quid, then that all gets doubled, remember, and that will make a huge difference to the work that we can do next year.
Aside of this initiative, what you're running now, for someone such as myself who's quite well established as a diver, I'm comfortable in the water and stuff, and I need a greater purpose for going diving now, instead of taking my camera in or going and learning a new skill or teaching someone or just having a pleasure dive. I wanted to get involved with yourselves. How would I, in the next year, in a COVID-free environment, let's say, how would I get involved and become a member?
Right. So go to the website, and there'll be there's an how to get involved button on there, and you can engage at two different levels, really. You can engage as a non-diver. So we're always looking for people to help out on the boat. And actually, if you're a diver, that's a really good way. Just come out on the boat one day, and you'll be making teas and coffees. You'll be pulling in heavy gear. You'll be counting the creatures that are in it. You'll be helping us with the survey work. You'll be getting to know the team and how we work. So that's a really good way of kind of getting to know us, if you like.
Yeah.
The second way is, if you're already a diver, then you can engage with us. Now, we ask that everybody goes through our training course, because basically what we have is large lifting bags, sharp knives, and a load of fishing net. And I already said that fishing net catches fish and crabs and then other stuff that it was never intended to catch. You can include divers in that list. So most divers, when they see fishing net underwater, they swim the other way. But we kind of dive right into it, really, which in some respects is not the smartest thing to do. But if you want to achieve something like this, then you have to get in amongst it. So we'll spend 3 days teaching you how to do this safely. So get your basic skills right, so that you're not going to get tangled up in the fishing net yourself, that you can look after your teammates. Everything we do is done in kind of teams. Then we're going to spend a day teaching you how to survey, what data you need to record your slates in your wet notes, bring it back to the surface so that it's useful to us to make the plan for the next day and to record the kind of animals that these nets catch. And then the third day is all about learning the basic skills of using lift bags, using sharp knives and other kind of tools and tricks that we use. And we can do that pretty much anywhere. We even do it in quarries, believe it or not, because the final phase of the training is you have to come out with us on a live project. So you've got to do a survey and you've got to get involved with a lift as well, like a real one, so you can see the difference between what we simulate and what the reality of it is.
It sounds like quite an advanced set of skills to be picking up, and it really does interest me. So I think you might have a new member in the new year.
Why not? Yeah. So we ask that you are UK divers and that you've got a reasonable amount of experience. I think it's 100 dives total, and that you've done 20 in the last year. So you need to be experienced and reasonably current as well.
Yeah.
Now, next year, those numbers are going to be a bit weird because not everybody's got in the water. So we'll look at that compassionately, shall I say, next year, as everybody's doing with this kind of thing at the minute. We do need you to be competent with a twin set. Okay, if you're not, there's a lot of us in the group that are instructors. I don't use this to kind of gain students. It's not why I'm doing it, but we have enough instructors in the group that can help you out with that and guide you in the right kind of way. So twin set use, UK diver, which kind of means dry suit effectively. Okay, so there's a few bits and bobs, but all the prerequisites for the class or the membership are right there on the website, so you can go and find those.
I mean, I understand that. I mean, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? You need to be in the water with plenty of gas because you fill in lift bags. There's chances of a problem are heightened compared to just your stereotypical normal run-of-the-mill dive.
We say twin set. The maximum depth we will dive deeper, but we tend not to do much below about 30 meters.
Yeah.
Firstly, because there's a whole ton of stuff shallower than 30 meters. We don't need to, but occasionally we get some projects that are deeper. But on a single tank, your bottom time is kind of limited to just based on gas consumption, not deco or anything like that. You're looking at 20 to 30 minutes. All right. And there's not a lot of time, all right, to orient yourself on a wreck or a reef, find the net, get all your work done, get the bags set, get the thing away. It's just not enough time. So yeah, it's good to have the reserve, obviously, but in order to be functional, you need a bit more time in the water. Otherwise, it's a smash and grab job. And when you rush things tend to go wrong.
Don't like that. Don't like the idea of that. Right. Well, thanks for coming on. And certainly, it's going to make quite an interesting project to get involved with for next year for me personally. But I hope you realise your target. I'll be on at midday tomorrow to hopefully be first to give you a little donation there.
That'd be brilliant, mate. Thank you.
Happy days. All right, I'll speak to you soon. Thanks for coming on.
All right. Thanks a lot, Andy.
Take it easy, Rich. See you, mate. Bye. So that brings us to an end of this bonus episode with my friend Rich Walker. Links to all the things we discussed are in the podcast notes. You've been listening to Are You a Scuba Diver? Fancy a Brew podcast with me, Andy the Northern Diver. You can find more scuba related content on my YouTube channel. The link is in the podcast notes. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing and leaving us a 5-star review. And to become a patron of the podcast, visit www.patreon.com/Fancy a Brew. There you'll be able to see the different levels of subscription and how to join the Fancy a Brew community. If there's someone or something you'd like us to discuss, please let us know via our Facebook page. Thanks for listening. See you on the next one.